Live from our studios here at Joy 99.7 FM. We're also live on Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi and on over 30 affiliates across the country. Good evening. This is News Night. We will deal ruthlessly with illegal miners. Lands Minister Designate talks tough as he pledges to crack down on illegal mining activities and ensure the law allowing mining in forest reserves is repealed.
Illegal mining will not be tolerated. It doesn't matter your political party.
We'll be live in Parliament as eco-conscious civil society organizations pile pressure on President Mahama to declare a state of emergency on forest reserves and river bodies.
Also tonight, water shortage hits parts of the central, western and eastern regions as water level in Ghana Water Company's Setri treatment plant drops sharply.
Ghana Water Limited in Cape Coast Metropolis is currently facing some challenge with respect to water supply. The same problem that we face in Cape Coast occurs in Sekondi Takrade whenever we get into the dry season. So in Sekondi Takrade, the supply from the Buah water treatment plant has also gone down because of the same problem.
Also coming up tonight, over 9,000 students in Nkwanta South Municipality left without education as teachers flee conflict-inflicted area for fear of harm, forcing some public and private schools to remain shut weeks after the latest clash that claimed some 5 lives.
We have 9,237 of the students, the learners, also not reporting to school. As we speak now, as of today, our doors have been opened, but the pupils are not in school.
And will he return to the noble medical profession tonight? 2024 NPP vice presidential candidate speaks on his next career move.
Life continues. I was somewhere before I came in, and now somewhere after I've left.
And coming up in sports,
24 teams to discover their opponents in the next few hours at the 2025 AFCON final draw, with Ghana's Black Stars noticeably absent.
Details of these and many other stories coming up tonight. My name is Kenneth Jesse.
I'm Faustina Safo.
Details after this.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, tonight, the Lands and Natural Resources Minister Designate Emmanuel Buah has assured that there will be no new mining activities in forest reserves if his appointment is approved. President John Dramani Mahama, during his 2024 campaign, pledged to protect the nation's forest reserves by ending mining activities within these ecological sensitive areas. While taking his turn before the Appointments Committee of Parliament, Mr. Buah said one of his first priorities in office will be to work towards the repealing of LI 2462, which allows mining in forest reserves.
The first thing I'll do when I'm given the nod, and the president has already indicated publicly, is that I'll come to this house to make sure we repeal LI 2462, to make sure that there will be no new mining in forest reserve. That will be the starting point. Once we do that, then we heal the process and make sure that biodiversity and ecological life is returned to our forests, and our degraded lands will be restored with the initiatives of Tree for Life and Restore Ghana to make sure that our forests are restored again.
The minister designate also vowed to take decisive action against anyone who flouts the law by engaging in illegal mining.
And I'm not here to talk about political platforms. I'm here to talk about solving serious problems that confront the people of Ghana. I'm here because I know where President Mahama's heart is. I know it through the policies he has espoused. I know the things he has said that has given him the mandate of the people of Ghana. And I'm here to tell the people of Ghana that the new government is committed to ensuring that there will be no new mining in forests reserved. The new government is committed to make sure that we protect our water bodies with new initiatives. The new government is going to make sure that we reclaim our degraded lands and give a pathway to help individuals who want to be in mining to do it legally with the support of government. But we will ruthlessly deal with anybody who decides that he will not follow the law. Illegal mining will not be tolerated. It doesn't matter your political party.
Well, so that's the Lands and Natural Resources Minister Designate Kofi Buah when he appeared before the appointment committee earlier today. He also hinted at decentralizing the process for acquiring the license to mine in parts of the country.
We are where we are because, in my view, a lot of the attempts at addressing some of the issues failed because of some of the points I'm bringing. I come from a mining district. And so I can tell you that number one of the interventions we are going to do is to change the approach. One will be community engagement in a different way. How do we get the community to really be part of this fight? We are going to start a very genuine and transparent approach by first making sure that the people in the areas where mining occurs understand that the destiny of their area is in their hands. And we are going to give them that respect and empower them, working with them to give them the support. The processes for getting a license sometimes is so cumbersome and so long. Of course, but to decentralize these services, to allow these communities who now know that if you want to do legal mining, this is the channel. You can even do it at the comfort of your computer and register. I'm very happy that the Minerals Commission is making progress with digitalizing some of these services. Now, having done that, we also need to go further. The NDC has said in its manifesto that we are going to recategorize mining. As we speak, it's small scale and large scale. And guess what? We can have one person with 30 licenses doing mining small scale, which requires you to do it in a 25-acre land. And then you do one small scale here. Contiguously, if you put it together, you are doing large scale. But we don't have the classification for a medium scale mine. So that makes supervision very difficult. And that is why we are saying that we're going to recategorize mining, create cooperatives, and then create what we call the gold board, which will really be the support system for this cooperative mining, providing support, providing assistance, working with the universities to bring geologists and experts to be in the same location.
Well, let's take you live to Parliament now, where a number of ministers designate have appeared before the Appointments Committee to face their vetting and speak to our resident correspondent, Kweku Asante. Kweku, give us a wrap of what has been happening at today's vetting.
Well, a total of 4 persons have been vetted. The last person for today is currently being vetted as we speak. That is Donatus Atanga, the Upper East Regional Minister designate. He's taking questions on Boko. And he's offering his assurances that when he gets the nod to become the minister, he will engage with the warring factions in that particular region, some of them spilling over to the northeast region, to get to the point where they can come and sit around the table. He hopes that by the time he leaves office, some of these issues would have been trashed out. He has an interesting story because he has been the NDC Regional Secretary for 27 years. In fact, it's in his 28th year, and is the longest serving of any political party in the country. And the members, particularly of the NDC from the Upper East region, who have all come around the table, have expressed their confidence that he will be able to do the job. And in fact, he has been talking about the idea that he has led the NDC to win all 15 seats in that particular constituency. And so he expects that he's going to do really well in that role. And Boko has been the centerpiece of that. There are very final questions that have been asked of him currently in the committee, and then he'll be done for the day. But before he came, there was Ibrahim Tia, also the minister designate for the Northeast region. He responded to questions about armed robbery in the region, about poor roads, and gave a broader idea about what he intends to do together with colleagues in the government to ensure that they deliver on the mandate that the Ghanaian people have given John Dramani Mahama. And then there has also been Dr. Frank Abuakuhine from the Ashanti region, and he came with a very packed delegation from the Ashanti region, including the Mamponhima, as well as former Attorney General Betty Bodi Drisu, party stalwarts, the current Ashanti Region Chairman of the NDC. According to Dr. Mamponhima, he intends to really harness the energy of the Ashanti region, which is the second most populous region in the country. He's spoken about how poor roads, in particular at the center of Greater Kumasi, have been stopping the ability of the region to be able to generate itself as an economic hub. And so he intends to work on the specifics of the roads. And he's also been assuring that despite the fact that he's a very young person, in fact, he's 34, John Dramani Mahama has appointed 42 persons so far. He's the youngest of that cohort, 34 years, and going to work in a region where you have very huge and influential traditional leaders like the two for himself. He says he's going to take the advice of all these traditional leaders, work with the relevant groups and stakeholders to be able to do their work. And so that is the situation with the 4 persons that have been vetted so far. We are yet to get confirmation as to which specific nominees will be vetted tomorrow because the schedule of the committee has been revised. But from what I'm picking up, Edward Omani-Boama is very likely that the Minister for Defense designate will take his turn before the committee together with Emmanuel Kujeje-Kum, J. Kenneth Gilbert, and then Linda Obenua Akweli Oklu of the Greater Accra region. So that is the situation, Kenneth.
Okay, Kwekwa Asante there, bringing us updates on what has transpired so far in Parliament today.
Well, Ken, it's a good time to bring in Darrell Bonsu, who is Deputy National Director for Arocha Ghana. Thank you so much for your time here on Newsnight. I also have with me Abraham Kumsin, his Secretary General of the Ghana Federation of Labour. Thank you so much for your time here on Newsnight. I'll start with Darrell. We've been hearing from the Lands Minister designate serve notice that he'll be working with Parliament to ensure that they repeal LI 2462, which allows mining in forest reserve. Are you pleased?
Good evening to you, and really happy to be here. I have to say that it was reassuring to hear the minister designate talk about his commitment to see the LI reviewed. I think that's what he said, and that's something we are also very keen on. So it's good to hear that he agrees, or to a certain extent, they agree that that law has a problem and must be repealed to safeguard the integrity of our forest reserve. So we are very excited to hear him say that, and we are ready to work with him. I think the previous government initiated a process to the Ministry of Environment. We want to see how they also will quickly take steps to ensure that whether it's a review or repeal, it is successfully done as soon as possible. So that's really very assuring, and we are ready to engage to make sure that that is done and done well.
One thing that came up tonight during the vetting was concerns raised about mining licenses issued during the last few days of the Akufo-Addo-led administration. Between 1st of January to 6th of January alone, 102 different mining leases were granted. And in fact, on the 1st of January, which was actually a holiday, 67 different mining licenses were actually issued. And this is worrying to you, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, it's been very worrying getting to know about this development. But also, I think that in looking at it, let's ask ourselves, these mining leases for actual companies to go and mine, or some of them are also services that are provided to mining companies. So I think we need to get to the details of it. But if that is the nature of the way mining leases were issued, just at the last minute when they know they were out of office, then that is quite unfortunate. And that's what I've always said, that previous government did not really prioritize the concerns of citizens when it comes to mining. And we don't want to see the new administration also make the same mistakes. I mean, we should let the past be a thing that we'll never repeat and look forward to more decisive action in addressing Galamsey. We can't let what happened in the previous administration happen this time around.
Let me bring in Abraham Kumsin at this point in time, because we're just learning that in the last days of the Akufo-Addo-led administration, over 102 licenses were issued out. Now, should we consider reviewing these licenses from where you sit?
I think our problem has to do with the destruction of the forest reserves and then the pollution of water bodies and all that. If the licenses are controlled and they make sure that they do a good job, they don't destroy forest reserves, they don't destroy the water bodies, I don't think that we have any issue. Once they are doing good work and they have been licensed to do that, we don't have issues. But the problem has to do with these galamseyers, these guys who don't care about what happens to our, the rivers. That's the problem. And also the destruction of the forest. That's the problem. But if you are going to issue a license to anybody who you think that there must be proper, assessment, whoever is going to be given the license, you make sure that there are controls. They're in Parliament. They make the laws. So if we make laws that will allow people to mess the whole environment up, I think it is up to them. They want to repeal the laws, because laws are made for human beings to regulate our behavior.
We've been hearing from the Lands Minister designate earlier today. He has served notice that he'll be working in Parliament to ensure that they repeal LI 2464, which allows mining in forest reserve. I know that last year you waged war against illegal mining, and that was one of the key concerns you raised. Are you pleased?
Yes, that is great. They should look at it and make sure that they don't give out license to people who will not care about the environment, about destroying forests and that sort of thing. Once that is them, they are there. They are in Parliament and they know the right thing for us. We have given them the mandate to do the right things. If they will be there and be condoning in this kind of activities, it is up to them. But I think that this time around, I'm sure that they will sit up and do the right thing for this country.
Right. Mr. Kupson, would you give any timelines? Because we do recall when Labour met with the president last year, that's former President Akufo-Addo, he did indicate that he had listened to your plea and that he was going to repeal that LI. That never saw the light of day. Now we get a new assurance from the new minister designate. Do you believe that this is going to be done? And are you giving him any timelines?
No, he is being vetted. Let him go through this. Let the Parliament pass them, and then after that, we'll book an appointment with him and discuss these issues. Certainly, and I don't think that this government will allow any minister to behave the way the previous administration behaved. So I'm sure that they will be committed. At least they have learned their lessons. The voting pattern which got these people out from office, they are aware of it. So if they don't conduct themselves well, they will face the same fate. And so I think that I have belief and I trust that this administration will do the right thing to make sure that our forest reserves are not destroyed. Cocoa, even for now, look at the problem that we are facing with the cocoa industry. So all we want is that they put in place measures that will deal with people who engage in these illegal things. And as I said, we will engage him as soon as he's passed. We'll book an appointment with him and meet with him and see how best we can also support.
Thank you, Abraham Kumson. Now, let me wrap up with Daryl. Do you think at this point it's necessary to declare a state of emergency? Because the minister failed to talk about that today during his vetting. But from where you sit, do you feel we should still declare a state of emergency?
Yes, I think this we need to come to a point where even if we are not ready for a state of emergency because we think that the new government is still putting its house in order, we need to at least come out with a cease and desist order so that everybody on the ground, everybody in the field is aware of the government's position on Galamsey. Because what we have seen happen now is that a lot of the people are forcibly going to concessions, both legal and illegal, and purporting to be claiming to be coming from this government administration or supporters group, and so they are taking over some of these mining areas by force, and it's leading to several clashes, sometimes fatalities, and this is what we must avoid. And I think that it is coming about because the government, since they took office, has been very silent on what they see as their posture to the impunity going on, and until they do that, we are going to see this issue continue as it is. So a state of emergency, even if we are not ready for it, should not be left. We shouldn't be on the quiet, there should be a cease and desist order. And then as we go on, maybe the government comes out with a moratorium to ensure that everybody stops mining so that we can put our house in order and get things done properly. We cannot be silent as it is now and let the impunity continue with as we are seeing all over the country now.
Thank you, Darrell Bonsu. He is Deputy National Director, Arocha,
Right.
Ghana. Earlier we spoke to Abraham Kumsin, Secretary General, Ghana Federation of Labour.
Right, Faustina, from illegal mining, let's talk about a Greg, because the Minister for Food and Agriculture, Eric Opoku, has promised to increase agric production to cut down on food importation. Now, currently, Ghana imports most of its onions and tomatoes from neighboring countries like Cote d'Ivoire and Burkina Faso. And in a bid to tackle the situation, the Agric Minister, Eric Opoku, is currently on a working tour of the various agencies and departments under his ministry to find a cure to the challenges. We will bring you details of that tour shortly, but first, listen to the Minister address staff of the Plant Protection and Regulatory Services Directorate at Pokuase.
We have decided to use agriculture as the engine for economic transformation in this country. Our belief is that with agriculture, we can create jobs for the teeming youth of our nation. With agriculture, we can even arrest the challenges facing us in respect of the exchange rate, which is also affecting the entire economy. So agriculture can stabilize the Ghanaian economy, rake in more forests, stabilize the city, and then generate jobs for a lot of people in our country. And agriculture can never be successful without the Plant Protection and Regulatory Services Directorate. And that is the more reason why I'm here today. I want to understand you, you understand me, and then after this engagement, I will meet the core leaders of this group in the office, and then we'll discuss the programs that we have, fine-tune all the strategies so that we can carry everybody on board. We must all understand the fact that there is a responsibility placed on us. Ghanaians out there expect us, not me alone, all of us, to make sure that we drive our nation towards food sufficiency. It is unfortunate and unacceptable that a country like Ghana, with all the agricultural endowments that we are still importing onion, we are importing pepper, we are importing tomato from Burkina Faso. Every peso that is expended on the importation of these items create jobs in those countries. And so if you want jobs for our children, if you want jobs for our grandchildren, for our siblings, our neighbors, our relatives, what we must do is to produce more here so that that money will stay here and create the jobs for our people. And that is the responsibility.
Right, so that's the Agric Minister, Eric Opoku there. My colleague, James Aveji, has been on tour with him all morning. He's joined me in the studio with more. James, apart from the Plant Protection and Regulatory Services Directorate, where else did you go with the Agric Minister, and what has he been saying?
Yes. So this is just day one of the 3-day tour. He's also been to the Statistics Research and Information Directorate, the Human Resource Management, Agric Extension Directorate, as well as the Directorate for Crop Research Services. Now, this, according to him, is to give him first-hand information on the work of all of these directorates, agencies, and departments under the ministry to help him take decisive actions on how he can, together with the president fulfillment of the president vision, reset the agric ministry and the employees. So you see that environment of tete-a-tete between him and the employees, where he's giving them the opportunity to tell him their challenges, issues like land encroachment, as well as welfare issues and financial issues, were some of the key things that the staff took the opportunity to put before him to address for them in the next 4 years that he'll be staying in office.
Okay, and James, he has also been speaking about sabotage. What really is it?
So this is a stern warning that has featured in all of the engagement with all of these directorates that we've visited. He says that the elections are over now, and advising the staff to hang their political jacket, in his own words, and that any of them who are NPP, who are whichever political parties, in times like this, they would want to work to sabotage the work of the minister in extension of government. His advice is that anyone who would want to do some of these things to sabotage his work, he will not hesitate to expel them from the ministry and their position. In all, it is the clarion call for all staff to come together to help him realize his vision and that of the President John Dramani Mahama to increase production, which will go a long way to cut down on taxes and import duties, as well as the exchange rate. And so those are the key issues that has been coming up today. Tomorrow, we'll start from Nungwa and to other places that he will be visiting on day 2.
Indeed, James Aveji there, who has followed the Food and Agric Minister Eric Opoku all day.
Well, you're still listening to News Night. We're live on Joy 99.7 FM. You can share your thoughts with us on 055-1111-997. It's time now for business, and George Weafi joins me in the studio. George, what's up?
Well, coming up in business, Monetary Policy Committee of Bank of Ghana keeps policy rate at 27% as it awaits more economic data before taking a decision on reviewing that key lending rate to commercial banks. And Minister for Lands, Natural Resources designate Emmanuel Buah announces government resolve to ensure that Ghana is not shortchanged in any mining agreement. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, Center Tanks and Pepsodent, Herbal and Charcoal. Welcome back to business on Newsnight. Now, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has kept its key lending rate to commercial banks unchanged, left it at 27% after meeting to review development in the economy over the past 2 months. Earlier on, I put together a report development in terms of the press conference held by the Bank of Ghana to highlight some key development in the economy. Speaking at a news conference at the new head office of the Bank of Ghana, popularly known as the Bank Square, Governor Dr. Ernest Addison noted that despite inflation rate being under control, a lot more data is needed before.
This is the most important message from this MPC discussions, and the reason why the policy rate is being kept where it is for now, because by March we'll get a better sense of the policy agenda.
The governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, has also been giving some reasons why the debt stock has been going down since October last year.
The decline in the public debt of 24 billion is not that significant anyway, but it shows that the extent of public borrowing has declined slightly, that we have reported for.
The governor also announced that they are optimistic about inflation. Now, the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, noted that if the current administration should stick to the targets under the IMF program and press ahead with the fiscal consolidation initiatives, then we should be assured that the Ghana city will remain stable going forward.
Our forecasters are saying that instead of reaching the single digit by the first quarter of 2026, the forecast suggests that we will do that in the second quarter of 2026. Of course, all of that is predicated on the economic policy agenda, which is yet to be, crafted.
And that is the Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Ernest Addison ending that report there. And the Bank of Ghana has started operating from its new headquarters at Ridge here in Accra, popularly known as the Bank Square. We understand that some departments are already operating from that structure. Even the Bank of Ghana held its Monetary Policy Committee meetings from the structure that is at Ridge here in Accra. Now, Finance Minister Dr. Atuforsen has called for urgent measures to optimize Ghana's gold benefit. Now, speaking at the inauguration of a technical committee for the Gold Board initiative in Accra, Atuforsen stressed the importance of strategic reforms to enhance the management of the country's gold resources.
Time has come for Ghana to expand beyond royalties and taxes. This involves the optimizing every stage of the value chain, from extraction to refinery, value addition and marketing. both locally and internationally. The Ghana Gold Board will serve as a specialized agency to ensure effective marketing of Ghana's gold resource. This will involve the implementation of a deliberate program, formalize gold trading from a small-scale mining industry, and promote traceability with the aim of enhancing international acceptability of gold from the Republic of Ghana.
And that is the Minister of Finance, Dr. Atu Forson. Now, the Minister of Land and Natural Resources designate, that is Emmanuel Kofi-Buah, has resolved to ensure that Ghana is not shortchanged in any mining agreement. He has also outlined a series of measures to deal with galamsey, including setting up of water guards to protect Ghana's water bodies from further destruction. Here's a wrap of today's vetting by my colleague Isaac Etasenyako.
Emmanuel Kofi-Buah, Minister Designate for Lands and Natural Resources, emphasized his vision to prioritize adding value to Ghana's natural resources. To make Ghana a preferred destination for the extractive sector, he expressed his readiness to review certain requirements if it would yield the utmost benefit to the country. The MP for Elembele constituency also assured the House of improving monitoring of the export of gold and other minerals to curb the issue of trade value differences. He further promised to apply sanctions and ensure the proper extraction of Ghana's natural resources to deal with the galamsey menace. Additionally, Mr. Kofi-Buah assured the House of embarking on a massive reforestation drive to increase Ghana's chances of attracting green and climate funding. On one of the legacies he would like to leave as a minister, here is what he had to say.
I want to be remembered as a minister that finally got large-scale mining companies to finally bridge the gap between these companies and the communities in which they operate.
And that is the Land and Natural Resources Minister Designate Emmanuel Kofi-Buah, ending the report put together by my colleague Isaac Atase Nyako. Now, Chairperson of the Association of Charter Certified Accountant Network in Ghana, Kenna Nobokal Dodel Arose, has stressed the need for chartered accountants to uphold ethics and professionalism. He made the call in Accra after 100 chartered accountants were inducted.
It is an event where we take the opportunity not only to celebrate them for the hard work done, but to acknowledge their qualification and to remind them of the values by which we are trained. ACCA lives by very high standards of professionalism and ethics, and we have certain professional standards that our members are supposed to live by so that they are not just ordinary accountants, but they are chartered accountants, meaning that their qualification puts them to a higher level of performance, ethics, and obligation to a set of rules and regulations that you cannot drop off.
And you had the chairperson of the Association of Charter Certified Accountants Network in Ghana, Kenna Noble Carl Dodel Alose there. Now, before we go, the World Bank Board of Directors today approved a landmark investment program to bolster regional power system integration, enhance energy security, and as well as make it more affordable for those in the low-income bracket. The 1.6 billion multi-phase funding would actually also ensure that the West African Electricity Market Program, supported by the International Development Agency, will address critical electricity needs for households in Ghana here. And Ghana is supposed to be, or is expected to be, a beneficiary of this $1.6 billion that is approved by the World Bank today to support certain countries in the West African region. And that's all for business on Newsnight. Let's do some sports. My colleague, my brother.
Let's go straight into the stories. And Ghana are noticeable absentees at the ongoing AFCON 2025 draw in Morocco as the Black Stars failed to qualify for for the competition for the first time in 20 years. The event will review the group stage opponent for 24 teams competing for Africa football's most coveted trophy. Host nation Morocco returning to host the AFCON for the first time since 1988. We're looking to capitalize on their home advantage. The Atlas Lions, riding high on their historic 2022 FIFA World Cup semi-final run, are amongst the favourites. Defending champions Cote d'Ivoire are also eyeing back-to-back triumphs after lifting on home soil just a year ago. Senegal, the 2021 winners, led by coach Papi Thiaw, are equally determined to make history. Meanwhile, underdogs like Botswana returning to the AFCON for only the second time since 2012, and Comoros looking to replicate that surprise 2021 campaign, bring a unique edge to the competition. Pot 1 for the draw will see Morocco, Senegal, Egypt, Algeria, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire. In that pot 2, we'll see Cameroon, Mali, Tunisia, South Africa, DRC, and Burkina Faso. Pot 3 includes Gabon, Angola, Zambia, Uganda, Equatorial Guinea, and Benin. And pot 4 has Mozambique, Comoros, Tanzania, Sudan, Zimbabwe, and Botswana. That's all for sports. Back to you guys.
Well, thank you very much for bringing us the latest in sports. Let's now take you to the OT region, where over 9,000 students in the Nkwanta South municipality of that region are losing out on getting formal education as their teachers flee the area due to the latest conflict that claimed lives, including that of children, weeks ago.
Well, 24 public schools and 18 private schools in the area have been forced to close down. Nkwanta South Municipal Director of Education, Jonathan Kosina, says the situation has become increasingly dire, prompting over 500 public teachers to flee to safer locations, fearing for their safety amid tensions in the area.
We have 9,237 of the students, the learners, also not reporting to school. As we speak now, as of today, our doors have been opened, but the pupils are not in school. We've also assured our teachers in those communities that if they feel insecure, they should quickly put it in writing so that we can repost them to places where we can ensure or they themselves feel comfortable to work. This is not the first time this is happening, and we've given hope to our teachers to return several times. Now, the situation is that it is the community leaders who are supposed to give this assurance. So once the community leaders cannot give the teachers assurance, we are not going to force any teacher to go to that community. It means the community doesn't want schools to exist today. And once schools are not there, no teacher is going there. We have to be very serious on this issue. We will not subject any of our teachers to a uncomfortable situation or to go into such stressful situation in those communities. If the community leaders feel that their community is safe for a teacher to be there, they should come and give that assurance. And we are very, very serious on that.
While on this subject, because the Member of Parliament for Nkwanta South, Jeffrey Kinney, has also directed the Education Directorate and parents to refrain from rushing back to school until peace is fully restored in the area.
We all know that Nkwanta South is in trouble. It's not safe for now. And if it's not safe now, we don't have to compel our children to forcefully attend school. All we need to do is to come together. Stakeholders must come together. We should be prepared to make peace ourselves. Once peace reigns, I think that the door will open for our children to continue with their activities. Not only with school, but with all government institutions that are in Nkwanta. I think that once we are able to build peace, they will resume, government activities will resume as well.
While the Ghana Water Company is struggling to supply adequate water to Cape Coast and other parts of Secondary Takoradi due to a significant drop in water levels at the Setri Himang and Dabuasi treatment plants, the situation, they say, is largely attributed to the ongoing dry weather conditions and pollution of the country's rivers. And they say that has severely impacted residents in the affected communities, compelling the company to ration water.
Well, Faustina Nana Yalberima, who is the corporate communication manager for the Ghana Water Company in the Western and Central regions, explained the situation to Joy News.
Ghana Water Limited in Cape Coast Metropolis is currently facing some challenge with respect to water supply. The same problem that we face in Cape Coast so occurs in Sekandi Takrade whenever we get into the dry season. So in Sekandi Takrade, the supply from the Buah water treatment plant has also gone down because of the same problem. There are two treatment plants that supply water to Cape Coast Metropolis in the central region. We have the Brimso water treatment plant and the Sachaheman water treatment plant. We abstract raw water from the Pra River for treatment at Sachaheman water treatment plant. And we also we abstract raw water from the Kakum River for treatment at the Brimsu water treatment plant. Currently, the main challenge is with the Sachaheman water treatment plant. Because it is not raining now, and therefore no fresh inflows of water come into the river basin at Sachaheman, the river level currently has gone very low. And because the river level is very low, we are not able to abstract enough raw water for treatment at Sachaheman. So we are facing a similar challenge. But here, what we are doing is to do what you call rationing. We have divided Takrade Metropolis into two. We have the Takrade South and Takrade North. So we serve a particular district, say Takrade North, for 4 days. Then after 4 days, we shift our attention to Takrade South and also serve that district for 5 days because of the volume of water that they require.
Well, the company has, however, announced plans to dredge the Source River to improve water flows. Nanaya Oberma indicated that the dredging period should not last more than 3 days to avert the water challenges in the region.
The solution that we have at hand is to dredge the intake of the Sachaheman water treatment plant. By dredging, we are scooping the silt that has accumulated at the intake so as to make room for water to come into the intake for abstraction by the low lift pumps. Once we scoop away all the silt that has accumulated at the intake, we are able to increase our abstraction and therefore supply. So we had a challenge. Therefore, the supply reduced from 18,000 cubic meters of water to 9,000 cubic meters of water. But from today, because we have been able to resolve the challenge that we had at that treatment plant, from today, we are able to restore supply to 18,000 cubic meters of water. That is at Brimso. So once the challenge, the problem at Brimso has been resolved, and we are also going to do the dredging at Sachaheman, we should be able to bridge the gap between demand and supply to a very large extent. It might not solve the entire supply problem, but there will be a significant improvement in the supply to the metropolis. So I'm not sure from, say, next week, we are still going to have that pronounced difficulty that people face as far as accessing potable water.
Well, let's head to Kenya now, where President John Mahama has warned that the African Union's over-reliance on foreign partners compromises its independence and its ability to set its own agenda. He's calling on the AU to expedite efforts towards achieving financial independence.
Well, speaking at a high-level retreat on African Union institutional reforms held in Kenya's State House in Nairobi, President John Dramani Mahama stressed the need for the AU to, among others, also focus on conflict resolution and counter-terrorism.
Efficiency must be the guiding principle in how we conduct our affairs, ensuring that our policies and programs translate into real change for our people. We must adopt mechanisms that prioritize accountability, transparency, and value for money, ensuring that every resource is maximized for the benefit of the African people. Your Excellencies, one of the fundamental pillars of reform is AU's financial autonomy. The over-reliance on external partners for funding compromises the organization's independence and ability to set its own agenda. The implementation of the Kigali decision on financing the union must be expedited. A self-reliant African Union is not just a vision we have, it is an imperative to achieve.
Right, let's still stay in Kenya and bring in our presidential affairs correspondent Maxwell Agbagba, who is at the retreat at Kenya's State House. Maxwell, first of all, can you tell us about this retreat and its purpose, and what else has President Mahama been saying?
Well, Ken, there's been a lot of calls for reforms in the African Union to make it effective and efficient in dealing with the continent's issues. The call for EU reforms was first made in 2016 when African leaders observed the urgent need, stated the urgent need to restructure the organization to better the challenges that we face here in Africa. Now, there were 5 priority, areas. Key amongst them is structural and operational review. There's the need to review the structure and operations of the AU, make the AU more effective, and then sustainable financing, which is at the core of some of the discussions. That the organization must implement sustainable financing mechanisms to reduce its over-reliance on development partners. Now, President Ruto, who's the Kenyan president, was selected as the African Union champion for institutional reform in February 2024. So this retreat or this conference is to help him to update his fellow heads of states on what the progress has been so far. And at today's event, we had the president of Comoros, we had the president of Ethiopia, we had the president of Guinea-Bissau. Of course, Ghana's president, John Mahama, was there together with other African leaders. Now, other things that John Mahama has been talking about, he urged African Union members to prioritize appointing more women and youth to leadership roles at all levels of governance. And he gave our vice president, Professor Nana Jinopoko-Jiman, a shout out and said she's Ghana's first female vice president. And this drew applause from the audience.
Your Excellencies, without peace, there can be no development. The AU must strengthen its capacity to prevent, mediate, and resolve conflicts. This includes adequately resourcing the African Standby Force and leveraging partnerships to address emergency threats such as terrorism, cybercrime, and climate-induced displacements. Indeed, this is very important for us, especially in West Africa, considering the challenge we face from terrorism. Africa's future lies in its youth. Over 60% of our population is under the age of 25. And yet their voices are largely absent in policymaking. We must institutionalize frameworks that empower our young people and our women to lead at all levels of governance. And I'm happy to report that in the last election, for the first time in Ghana's history, we elected a woman as our vice president. The energy of our youth, creativity, and vision are the drivers of the Africa that we all seek to build.
Right, Maxwell, briefly, President Mahama has also been saying that we must address the barriers to trade on the continent. Tell us more, briefly.
Well, some of the people at the conference who I've been speaking to are particularly impressed with Kenya, especially when it comes to M-Pesa in Kenya and other East African countries, and the efforts, towards making the act, successful. Well, President Mahama said that the African Union has to do more to ensure that it removes all the trade barriers that exist, within the continent, so we can progress.
The African Continental Free Trade Area has set the foundation for a single African market, but much work remains to be done. We must address the barriers to trade, we must harmonize regulatory framework and invest in infrastructure to unlock the potential of intra-African trade. Additionally, the AU must champion technological innovation and digital transformation as catalysts for economic growth and inclusion. And in this, we wish that the African payment system that allows us to pay seamlessly for goods traded between our countries is expedited so that we can have a system of exchange. Ladies and gentlemen, none of these reforms will succeed without committed leadership at every level of the African Union. We as heads of states and governments have a duty to lead by example, to prioritize the collective good of our people over our parochial interests, and to act decisively in the interest of our continent. But leadership does not end with us. The Union must foster partnerships with civil society, the private sector, and the African diaspora, whose contributions are vital in shaping and implementing reforms. This is a shared responsibility, and together we can achieve the African Union we all envision.
Well, it's time to put our community heroes under the spotlight again. The Joy News Impact Makers Award 2025 is just around the corner, Ken, and it's time to celebrate those extraordinary individuals making an impact in your community. Well, we have a report by Elsie Asiedwa.
It has been more than a family. We are grateful for the publicity almost on daily basis on Joy News. This mileage has gone a long way to sustain and increase our impact across the country.
We apologize for that poor sound quality. We'll bring you that report in subsequent bulletin. But Ken, just before we leave the studio, we've been receiving a lot of messages, but we'll be reading that shortly. Now, social media, though seen as a tool for empowerment and connection, but for women and girls, these platforms are increasingly becoming spaces for fear and hostility. According to UN Women, a startling 45% of female users on Facebook and Twitter are reported to have experienced online abuse. Among them are cyber stalking, hate speeches, and threats.
Forcing many of self-censor or totally withdraw. Now, UN Women find the trend alarming and advocates the institution of legislations, particularly in Africa, to stem it. The following report has more.
At a recent media forum on combating violence against women and girls in Dakar, Senegal, policymakers, traditional leaders and journalists gathered to discuss this growing concern. Organized by Ramapsin with support from UN Women and Vows Français Muskoka, the forum highlighted online gender-based violence as a critical barrier to women's participation in public and professional life. Regional Program Coordinator Angela Muruli of UN Women outlined some underlying factors accounting for the phenomenon.
The main underlying themes are the accessibility of digital spaces, the anonymity that's linked with digital spaces, but also the social norms that our society have and how people view women and girls.
Globally, studies paint a grim picture. A report by Plan International found that 58% of women and girls have faced online harassment. In Africa, these challenges are compounded by limited digital literacy and weak legal protections.
Now, away from cyberbullying, the 2024 vice presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, Matthew Opoku Prempeh, says he does not plan on returning to medical practice in spite of his party's loss at the just-ended general elections.
Oh, indeed, Ken. You know that before assuming office as MP for Menchia South, Opoku Prempeh worked as a medical doctor and even served as a member of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons in the United Kingdom from the year 1919 to 2003. But in a viral footage on social media, this is what he plans to do next.
But anyway, how is life after politics, after parliament and after the elections?
Life continues. Life continues. I was somewhere before I came in, and now somewhere after I've left.
Are you going back to the hospital?
No.
Why? Because we saw you.
That life is past.
Oh, how? Because when the thing happened during the Sona, they commended for your swift move to salvage the situation. So we're thinking maybe you were just rehearsing to going back to the hospital.
That is a skill that I've acquired. I keep it.
You are one of the people who usually gets talked about on social media a lot.
Why?
It looks like everybody likes you. So when you talk, people like you.
Then the problem. If everybody likes you, it's a problem. That's what the Bible says. Beware when people speak good of you.
Do you get a chance to read sentiments and what people say on social media?
Fortunately, I'm not on social media that much. So I leave them to enjoy the space.
So
I cannot be everywhere.
I understand, but sometimes, some of these sentiments people express, maybe some come from a good place and they want to evaluate them and then try to take them into action.
I cannot be everywhere, so some people do work on other things.
So you don't get to know what happens on your socials, the comments?
I get to be brief. I keep it.
Well, it's time to leave the studios, but you've been sharing with us your messages. Let me read one of them. And this is coming from Spintex. Nana from Spintex. He says, was clear to Ghanaians that Nanado didn't care about the ordinary Ghanaian. But how could he issue so many mining licenses to aggravate our current illegal mining situation?
That's quite fascinating. And this one also says, whoever wants to sabotage any government official under John Mahama's administration, we will flush them out of offices. This is coming from Philip Abuchi in Keta. But that's how we wrap up the bulletin tonight. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. My name is Kenneth Jesse.
I am Faustina Safo. Good evening.